Hey, welcome to another installment of Catching Up. I'm Sam.
I'm Chris.
This week, Jeremy Holt comes on the show to talk about his book, Skip to the End, which he does with Alex Deotto, out everywhere on June 12th. But, you know, what I love about this talk, well, you'll find out what I love about this talk. No, I'll just say what I love. I mean, we go deep into the music hole.
Yep. They're going to hear it.
Yep. Let's let them hear it. And joining us on the show, we have Jeremy Holt. His book with Alex Deotto, Skip to the End, comes out on Wednesday, June 12th. Jeremy, thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So with this book, you've kind of got this Nirvana-esque analog, Samsara, which, you know, after the tragic death of one of their frontmen, the one of the band members finds a way to kind of travel back and almost kind of like butterfly effect history to kind of save his friend. Was Kurt Cobain and Nirvana kind of a big influence, both not just on the story, obviously, but on your life and that sort of thing?
Yeah, I'd say so. I definitely came to recognizing the band pretty late in life, late in my life. I was honestly too young to appreciate Nirvana when they were at the height of their fame. I think I probably was in elementary school. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't until years later when I discovered them kind of and just became mildly obsessed and read anything anybody talked about the band, watched tons of documentaries, obviously listened to all their music. But this actually was kind of partnered with this idea that I've always had where music is a form of time travel. So I think we all have songs in our lives that when we hear a particular song, it transports us back to a very particular moment in time. I just never knew what to do with that when I had that thought as a teen, I think. Mm-hmm. So when I came across Nirvana and kind of learned about their history, I realized, you know, what would it be like to try to save Kurt Cobain? What would that mean for the surviving members, and what would actually happen? Right.
With the idea of music kind of being this conduit, kind of being the there's a term for time travel. But
there's spatial collider is the actual hardware, I believe, that allows you to travel through time.
In this case, it's the guitar.
Yep.
Yeah. With what was it about? You know, I'll go both softball, like press junkety question, and I'll go like deep. But the press junkety question is, what song do you like to listen to travel back to a certain time? That's the kind of vanilla kind of.
Oh man, that's a great question.
I thought that was the softball one.
I guess I'm kind of a hopeless romantic. So when I think of songs that take me back, they usually take me back to a particular relationship. Mm-hmm. For this book in particular, I just listen to the band nonstop. I still listen to them maybe every day, but I listen to them hours and hours. My wife is so sick of Nirvana at this point.
Are you more of an in utero or
all of it? I've listened to Bleach, Nevermind, In Utero. I've listened to some B-sides. I listened to demo tapes. And yeah, anytime the band comes on the radio now, she cringes. But for me, there were some particular songs from the band's catalog that really got me in the headspace to write it. I'd say In Bloom is one of my favorites. Francis Farmer, Will Have a Revenge on Seattle is another. Mm-hmm. Penny Royalty. So
Penny Royalty is great. That's one of my favorites.
We kind of listened to In Utero in like preparation for this.
It's by far their best album, I think. Yeah. It's taken me years to kind of recognize that. I think a lot of people just go right to Nevermind, but In Utero is, I think it demonstrated them at their best. Mm-hmm. I think
my ringtone for the longest time was "Milk It," and so nice. People were like, "What the fuck is that?" I got into Nirvana super late too. Not super, but I got.
We were all in elementary school, and In Utero came out.
But I mean, I had a friend in high school or middle school who was obsessed with Nirvana. And I kind of was like, it's Nirvana, everyone knows Nirvana, but like, just the big, Smells Like Teen Spirit, all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And then, I was like mid-20s. This is going to sound so freaking nuts. My mom was watching American Idol, and some guy was trying to sing "Smells Like Teen Spirit," and it was like in like the later rounds. So like everyone was like, good, past all the shit or whatever. And he was trying to do it, and it was like fine, like it sound like it was melodically, he wasn't like hard, but like
karaokeing to Nirvana is a fool's errand.
Well, yeah, it's like Queen. But I was like, man, like what a voice Kurt Cobain had. You know what I mean? Like he had like that perfect scream that like it's real. Like it's. I think a lot of people think you could just scream and you're gonna sound like it, but it's just he was able to scream melodically.
It just sounded painful.
Yeah.
It sounded like he was slowly dying.
Yeah.
And in a lot of ways he was. And everything I've read about him and I've understood, I mean, yeah, I think to most people it sounds unpolished, but there was a way about it that just worked.
Yeah. And I went back and I was like listening to, going deep into the Nirvana catalog as opposed to just kind of like the singles and stuff. And Finding In Utero was a big one because I was like, holy shit, like it's just the chaos of that album is
Heart-Shaped Box is my favorite Nirvana track.
Yeah. And like just the kind of chaotic nature of that album, and the album cover so striking and everything about it. I became like a born again Nirvana fan, like big time.
Yeah, same.
And it just they totally blew me away. And then another thing I really came to appreciate too, because I remember there was Guitar World, Guitar Magazine back in the day that I used to be a subscriber to, and all that stuff, and took guitar in high school and played with a bunch of like crappy bands and stuff. And somebody that I came to realize how interesting of a guitar player he was Kurt Cobain, because I remember there was like those circles that were like he was on like a top 100 guitarist thing, and a bunch of like guitar snobs were like, "What the fuck's he doing on a he's not just doing this and that." And I was like that early on too. I was like, "What is he doing? Like, it's just feedback, what the?" But then like you listen to it, and it's like he brought such simplicity back to leads and guitar, and
coming off like hair metal too.
Oh yeah, that's the best thing he like Nirvana ever did was the final nail in that coffin of hair metal, because like. He brought in, and just the sonic feedback and the way he was able to control it, because the feedback's like fire. You don't know what the hell's going on, and he's somebody
covers up all my mistakes.
Yeah, and he's somebody that I just really came to admire as a guitarist too, because it's just, again, everything about him was like chaotic and just holding it all together, and it easily could have gone off the rails at any second.
And they definitely did a lot of times.
Sure, yeah.
They were the type of band that either they were amazing live, from what I understand, or they were just a total shit show.
Yeah. I mean, you see it both ways, like on all their SNL appearances, right?
But
you also get to see him cut a promo with Charles Barkley, which is like the best thing in the world.
So weird. So weird.
So that was going to be the super question, the literary question is, there's a lot of themes of second chances, regret, redemption. What was it about, Johnny, the protagonist of Skip to the End? Was it kind of hard getting in that headspace? Because he's a character that's definitely floundering you could argue the entire 4-issue arc, but especially when we first see him at the start of the series. Was it kind of difficult getting into that tap into that level of like pent up despair? Despair? Is that a word now? But yeah, despair.
Yeah, absolutely. I've had, I think we all have regret. I've never had something to the level that I was trying to write about. And I've never experienced loss on that level in such a public forum. So for me to kind of get into that headspace and kind of understand the mind of an addict, I actually attended a few AA meetings as research. My brother is a doctor through the Yale School of Medicine, and he deals primarily with opioid addiction. So he was the one who kind of turned me on to all of that, and he said, you can go to meetings, you just have to look for open discussion ones that allow respectful observers, and you can go and you can totally listen, and they welcome that. I was really hesitant because I just feel like that's such a sacred space to enter, and he was right. I was able to attend a few meetings and hear some stories and really kind of understand what it's like. So that was probably the most important part of the research for me. And then from there, just my own musings of what life would have been like for Cobain if he had survived, let's say, another 10 years. I mean, the early aughts weren't spectacular, but I think a lot has changed, that I think he was kind of wrestling with like social injustices and identity and whatnot. So I thought a lot about like, what would his music be like now? What would the band be like now? Would they be performing at the Super Bowl, doing Smells Like Teen Spirit? I mean, and then I thought, how can we make that accessible to the reader? How can I make that accessible? Initially, the book was going to be an examination of his life, and then I thought, that's just too complicated. There's too much surrounding his life. There's the conspiracy around his death, and like, he's just larger than life. So I decided to pick a member of this fictional band that was less well known, as kind of a easier jumping on point for the reader.
Kind of like a Chris Novoselic analog in this case.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Yep.
Who's like, I feel like, I mean, Grohl has arguably, without the end of Nirvana, there's no Foo Fighters, and there's no. It's kind of weird when you think about the musical. Howard Stern would tell Dave Grohl to his face that the death of Cobain like liberated Grohl, and I always felt like, do you really want to tell the dude that? Like, there's like so much raw feeling there.
Yeah, and it is interesting because things just played out very differently, and not to say that Novoselic doesn't have a great life. He's an activist, he's a filmmaker, he's doing great things. I just decided to take the story and focus on someone who couldn't get over it, and just dwells in it and wants to relive those moments because nothing can be as great as those days.
With the time travel being just a completely funky ass thing, one of the refrains in the comic is the concept or the question really if time is linear. So what were kind of some of did you kind of create a book of ground rules when it came to dealing with something as kind of wonky as time travel and like its consequences and that sort of thing?
Initially I did not. I had a basic idea of what I wanted to do. It was really daunting because it's like trying to reinvent the wheel. And I had come up with a couple ground rules, but it was very hard to kind of convey that in a comic book. So I try to make it very simple. I actually ended up, because I was so in love with this project after I was finished with it, I decided to write a novel based off it. And the novel actually has a much more elaborate timeline and rules involved. So writing the novel actually got me thinking more about those rules. But for the comic, I try to keep it pretty streamlined and easy to grasp.
Was it kind of tough making it work in 4 issues? I mean, I feel like there's a lot of compression that has to go, like doing a narrative of this size just across, 420 pages or so.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I looking back on it now, I would have probably liked to do 6 issues. I do definitely feel like the last chapter does. The pacing isn't as smooth as how it starts with the first issue. But the reality is that paying an art team can be expensive, and trying to keep the team together and on schedule for 6 issues can be very challenging. So I tried to kind of find a middle road for everybody where we didn't feel like we were dragging this on too long, and we were still having fun with it and enjoying the work.
One of the things that kind of like, there's something almost like poetic about it, that this originally ran with like Heavy Metal Magazine. How did that kind of association? Because again, it's like it's a grunge rock-esque comic. How did that association kind of come about?
It was basically because I knew someone that was working at Heavy Metal at the time. So a good friend of mine, Tim Daniel, who him and I co-wrote Skinned, which was a series originally published by Monkey Brain Comics. He's a production editor or production designer, production editor that he's worked for Image Shadowline, for DC, for all of those big name publishers, and he was at the time working with Heavy Metal. So I know he's a huge Nirvana fan. So when I showed him the pitch, which was basically the first issue, he was head over heels for it. So he kind of pushed it through over there. So that was kind of unexpected, considering that everybody rejected it. I pitched it to everybody. And so it was kind of, I felt like saving grace that he was able to find a home there for me. And then when heavy metal kind of had some conflicts with their diamond distribution and some of their trades weren't getting published, the weight was kind of killing me. I wanted to see the book collected, the series collected. So I had reached out to Inside Comics, who I've been working with for the last few years. And initially they rejected it. But my editor really loved the book and he really fought for it. And then they, I guess, came around and decided to publish it.
Yeah, we've seen some other books that were originally heavy metal that, I want to say, I think Donny Cates' Ghost Fleet.
Yeah.
Yeah, that eventually ended up at Image. And I think he had another book that's getting published by Dark Horse. I think it was like the Paybacks or something.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that whole logistical. I have to ask, because he's one of our patron saints. We have like 5, but like one of our big patron saints is heavy metal editor-in-chief himself, Grant Morrison. And I feel like everybody... Have you ever had any interaction with the man, the myth, the legend?
No. Doing the comic books, they were never published in the magazine, so my dealings were completely outside of all of that. So I just dealt directly with when Tim decided to leave heavy metal, his replacement, this guy Dan, I just worked with him very closely, and occasionally I'd get an email from Jeff Krelitz, the CEO, but other than that, it was kind of like, do what you got to do, get the book out. And that was about it. There was almost no oversight. And yeah, we were just kind of left to our own devices.
Sounds like Image. With the, you're working with Alex Deodato again on this one. You had previously worked with him on a werewolf comic, Southern Dog. What was it about jumping from a kind of more lycanthropic story to a time-traveling grunge rock story that made him just a natural fit?
Honestly, it was kind of out of necessity. He was looking for a project, and I was looking for an artist. I knew he was much younger. He is much younger. I think he's 25. So he's definitely outside of the whole MTV generation. I mean, it was fun to kind of introduce him to 90s fashion and send him all of this research I'd done. But, I just asked him to do some character sketches. And when he sent me, the 3 band members, I was like, I'm sold. So yeah, it kind of just worked out timing-wise.
So I have to ask, contractually, really, when you really to anyone that does anything werewolf related,
sure,
is your favorite Universal monster film The Wolfman?
I don't know. I mean, writing that book, I'm not actually a huge horror fan, and I was writing that book more as a way to deal with my inner struggle with identity. I am Korean American. I'm also adopted. I'm also a triplet, so my identity has been wrapped up in a lot of complications my entire life. And to process it, I wanted to deal with racism, which is something I've experienced most of my life. And it doesn't really matter where I've lived all over the world, and I still experience it. So that was really the focus for Southern Dog. So like the horror aspect, it's a good question, but I don't really actually have a good answer.
I mean, Frankenstein's dope. You could always go with
Frankenstein. Yeah, I mean, like Dracula is pretty awesome. I mean, various versions of what I've seen of that character.
Invisible Man.
But like when I think of the Wolfman, I actually think of like Bud Abbott and Lou Costello. Like,
oh yeah,
that's what I think. That's what I don't know. My dad had me watch those movies as a kid, and like when I think of Wolfman, that's what I think of.
Oh, dude,
yeah, the matchups.
My father was never really big into slashers. He didn't like the jump scares.
Yeah,
I think the only film he walked out in theaters was the original Halloween, because he complained that Michael Myers was fucking around the house. But my gateway into horror, and really my bedrock, has always been the Universal monsters, and he's a big Abbott and Costello fan. I have to ask, do you know Wook-Jin Clark?
I do. We went to college together.
Seriously?
Yeah, we actually met at a Korean Student Association meeting, and we were the only two guys that didn't understand what was going on because everything was in Korean.
Right.
He's also adopted, so like we just looked at each other, and it was like this immediate like, yeah, I don't know what they're saying. And we became friends.
I'm half Korean myself, which is I'm not adopted, but my father was a GI and all that, and that's how this whole situation happened. Oh. But yeah, so it's always cool. Like, I think between you, Wook-Jin, who's been on the show, and Greg Pak, who's been on the show, I think we've maybe completed the set.
Yeah. I mean, I think like I met Michael Cho at a convention. I tabled next to him, and it was really great to meet him for the first time. And just talking about Asian things is fun. I mean, I'm because I was raised by white people. I'm really not Asian by any stretch. I mean, yes, my face is, but that's about it. So it's always interesting to talk to people about that and what it's like dealing with identity and being a person of color in specifically comic books.
Right. So I have to ask, when it comes back to Skip to the End, is a lot of Johnny's identity linked to Kirk's?
I think so. This book was the first one that I kind of put the identity exploration kind of on pause. This was more about addiction and the different forms of addiction, and massive loss. I think his identity is more wrapped up in the band because, the more he goes back in time and visits his best friend, the more he realizes that some things happen for a reason, mm-hmm. and that, you can't change that. And to kind of accept that and move on is really the hardest part. But I'd say every other book I've ever written or researched or am planning to work on, it definitely deals with identity, but this is definitely one of them that didn't. So
in that regard, it's more processing almost stages of processing and accepting grief.
Yes.
Huh. Well, there you go. So, Jeremy, something we ask everybody that comes on the show, what are you currently geeking out over?
I'm currently geeking out over music. I listen to a lot of music. I look for a lot of music. So I'm totally just immersed and obsessed with Frank Ocean. Been listening to everything he's been producing, and anytime he drops an album, it's kind of like Christmas. Other than that, I am, I've been reading a lot of books. I've been trying to get through a lot of Pulitzer Prize winning books. So, yeah, I actually haven't read a comic in probably like half a year. I think the last one was when Donnie Cates gave me a copy of Redneck #1 before it came out.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I had taken a sabbatical from comics last year. I literally didn't work, read, or think about comics, and I just spent that year writing novels. So kind of getting back into the swing of things, and I produced 2 pitches a few months ago, and they're doing the rounds of publishers, and so I'm kind of stretching and kind of getting back into that grind.
What do you find fulfilling about writing for comics as opposed to writing for prose?
Writing comics, I do like the collaboration. I definitely missed, pitching an idea to an artist, them getting excited about it, me asking them to kind of like remix it and tell me how they want to change it and really do a full collaboration. On the flip side, I was getting very frustrated with false starts with projects because either, life happened for an artist or they had to take other work or what have you, and projects would stall. And with a novel, it's just me. It's just, I gotta, type out the words. So there was some freedom in that. But I think the reason that I turned back to comics this year is that I wrote a second novel this fall, and and my agent just hated it. And I went through, I revised the outline like 3 more times with him, and then he's like, I need you to revise it 1 more time, and I need a mission statement on why you think people should read this book. And I'm like, what? And the idea of throwing away a 300-page book, I was like, I need to shift gears. I can't think about this right now. So I had been developing a couple projects in the fall, so those were kind of wrapping up pitch-wise, so it was kind of good timing.
Yeah, just kind of like this weird reality check where it's like, oh, like, yeah, I mean, throwing away a 300-page anything is probably like just the worst thing in the world, especially something as like personal as like creative writing, where you pour so, and especially if you're dealing with identity, where you pour so much of yourself into the narrative.
Yeah, totally. I mean, the book I wrote was basically, and it's going to be, if I can ever write it, is basically a young adult adaptation of Great Gatsby, but the main character is Chinese. So the Nick Carraway character is Chinese, who moves to a private school in Long Island. So I've been, I really like the idea, and it's taken some major changes in the last 3 months, but I needed some distance before I started really writing it again.
You had mentioned music or things being not great in the early aughts. I have to ask, what is the concert that you are most reticent to share? What's the band or musical act you've seen live where you're like, maybe I don't bring that one up immediately in public?
Yep.
So I'm basically asking you to bring up that in public.
It's my first concert ever. This is going to date me, but MC Hammer.
Seriously?
It was my first concert. My second concert was Michael Jackson. But yeah, MC Hammer. My parents let me and a bunch of friends and my brothers, we just went, and they let us go by ourselves. And we must have been in 5th grade, and this is when I was living in Singapore. So yeah, they just took us to the venue and dropped us off, and we just had a great time.
Wait, but I feel like if I saw MC Hammer live, I would be like blasting that shit like 25 years on. I'd be like, you know what? I saw him with the big puffy pants. I saw that happen.
Oh, it was incredible. And like, I actually ask this question a lot when I meet people. I'm like, what was your first concert? And I was getting a drink maybe like a couple months ago, and I was just talking to the bartender, and she seemed young, and I asked her about concerts, and she's like, oh, my first concert was Backstreet Boys. I was like, oh, okay, well, that seems fair. And then she asked me, and I said MC Hammer. She's like, is it terrible that I don't know who that is? And I was like, yes and no.
I think it's not my first concert. My first concert was actually a festival where I saw Pete Yorn, Coldplay, Puddle of Mud, System of a Down, Nickelback, and Blink-182. But my most regrettable concert admission, like, they did a decent job for what they do, but I've seen the Dave Matthews Band twice.
Oh yeah, I have friends that have seen them like 20 times, and I'm just like, what? Well, let me ask you guys, what is the best concert you've been to that you just are so proud you got to see this person live or this band?
Roger Waters. Is my mic not on?
Your mic's not on.
Oh, my mic's not even plugged in. I'm the audio engineer, and I didn't see that.
I've seen. I'm a huge Bruce Springsteen fan.
Oh, okay.
And I don't get that many concerts, but I saw one of the coolest concerts I ever went to was I saw him on the Devils and Dust tour, which was basically just like Coffee House Springsteen, but playing in front of thousands and thousands of people.
Is that the one where the lady next to you cried?
Oh yeah. Well, like he was like, I'm not doing any hits. And he basically came out on stage, and there was like a piano, an organ, like a tambourine, a couple guitars, wow. And he would just come out and he would just talk to us like he was playing in front of 5 or 10 people. But it was at George Mason, so what is that, like 10,000, 15,000, 20,000?
Yeah, the Eagle Bank Arena, yeah.
Yeah, and so he was like, yeah, and he goes in the piano, he starts to play The River, which of course all of his stuff's super personal, but about his sister and stuff. And so the woman next to him was just like ugly crying like crazy. I mean, I was emotional the whole time too because it was the first time I ever saw him.
What was the first concert you went to?
My first concert I ever went to, I think we just talked about this recently, but my first concert I would like to admit to was Paul McCartney.
Wow, that's good.
My first actual concert was a Christian rock festival.
Yes.
And that was pretty intense.
Was it Newsboys or DC Talk?
I think it was DC Talk, but I told you there's that one band there called Phono or Fano or whatever. They blew my mind. I was like, I don't know, 13, 14. I was like, this is everything. I was like going nuts. And I met him afterwards. I was like, thank you so much. I got their CD signed and everything. They sound like the Goo Goo Dolls basically, but
a little more Jesus in there.
Yeah, well, the thing is, I don't even know if the band Phono was super Christian rock. I was like, I don't know. It doesn't matter.
Were they Creed Switchfoot Christian rock? Where they're
I think they might have said God in there once for the contract, to be you are now Christian rock. So I don't know. Anyway, but I think my favorite concert I've ever been to that I think years down the line I'll be I was front row was me and my friend Alice, who used to go to all of these shows together, Killers, all this other stuff. We saw Muse front row at George Mason as well, and it was a masterclass in no BS. Stage banter is fine when you can do stage banter. Springsteen forever can do stage banter. He could do a 3-hour show and 2 hours and 50 minutes is him warming up to tell you.
Blink-182 can do stage banter.
But Springsteen's more. I'm sorry, not banter. Springsteen's more stories. If you ever want to hear the greatest story before a song ever, there's the live version of The River. He tells a story about Vietnam, the draft and all that kind of stuff. And then he tells a story during growing up when he's early Springsteen, he hasn't really hit it big yet. And in the middle of the song, it's the band's kind of on low res in the background. And he's like, I think my parents are here in the audience. And he tells this really long story about how his dad hated the guitar and wanted him to be, one of them wanted to be an author and one of them wanted to be a lawyer. And so he tells this whole big story about it. And he's like, well, tonight, they're just going to have to settle for rock and roll. And the whole band comes roaring back in after this 10-minute song, story, whatever. But Muse was great because I think they said 3 words. It was we are Muse. And it was, the rest of it was expert playing,
Oh, yeah, that's how the Black Keys are. They just say, we're the Black Keys from Akron, Ohio. They go right through their songs and they leave and they don't even do an encore.
Oh wow!
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, another one too.
Muse is good.
Muse is fucking nuts. But one of my favorite emotional things ever, because again, I don't go to that many shows. I have plenty of opportunities. Sometimes I'm just
you're seeing Taylor Swift and Slayer.
Slayer, not together. That would be weird. But actually, that'd be awesome.
That'd be so awesome.
Yeah,
that would be awesome.
But yeah, a month apart. Yeah, Slayer and Taylor Swift. But I finally saw Kiss on their 700th farewell tour, and I remember. I'm a sick monster, huge Kiss fan, and it didn't hit me until the show was about to start. You're one of the best, you got the best, and I was like, holy shit! And I remember it was seeing superheroes come to life. And it was the only time I've ever seen a performance where Paul Stanley encores are so stupid. I love them, but they're so everyone knows it's gonna happen. So Kiss leaves right after basically setting the place on fire, and Paul Stanley comes back out and he's like, we don't do encores. He's like. We're gonna do a whole nother show, and they basically played for another hour. And he was like, they're
Seriously?
on. Yeah,
it was like Dave Grohl.
Yeah, no, yeah. It was one of the craziest things I've ever seen. They just had to reload the fireworks. That was the only reason they had stopped for 10 minutes, and they came back out, and they went nuts. That was really cool. But
I would say the best show I've seen. I don't know how the timing worked out when I graduated college, but James Brown performed. And that was amazing to see him live.
I actually got to see him live too. I saw him. So I used to go to a lot of festivals. I guess I still do, but in high school, that was I could only, on my lunch money, could only afford but a handful of shows every year. And so I would make sure to go to whatever the local radio, rock radio. And for some reason, I think on a lark, they're we can get James Brown. And so they got James Brown for one of their shows. And I'm looking, I see Billy Corgan, I see Boxcar Racer, I see Queens of the Stone Age, and then in the middle of that lineup is just James Brown. And I was just all right, well, cool. And so I saw James Brown.
That's amazing. That's awesome.
Chris?
Yeah, now that my microphone's plugged in, the probably the best show that I've been to is I got to see Roger Waters last year. That was intense. Like my mom got to see Pink Floyd during the Wall tour, and
that's the best.
used to tell me about how cool it was seeing them like build the wall, and there's a rocket that came down from the sound booth that destroyed the wall at the end of the show, and like they didn't do exactly that at the Roger Waters show, but because he was playing just all Pink Floyd songs, he had a lot of homages to stuff like that, and then like dangling over the audience that were seated in the floor seats. I was off to the side. We were at Capital One Arena here in DC, which is just indoor circular basketball arena type seating. I'm off to the side, so I have a perfect view of these projector screens that are like right in front of me that like have projections of like the wall being built, of these visuals that tie into the songs, and then like halfway through the show they're like, oh, but that's not it, because fuck you, like the projector screens started moving and stuff like that, and like what was being projected on them like moved in time with the movements of like the screens being scaled down, moving up and down. Like it was just ridiculous. It was probably the coolest multimedia like attachment to a musical show that I've seen, and it was glorious.
That's amazing.
And they had a flying pig.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah. There's a great concert like film that came out a couple years ago now, maybe 2 years ago. That's Roger Waters' The Wall, where they capture it. But then they also do stuff because that album is so much tied to his father, and never meeting his father because he was killed in World War II. And so like he goes to visit, I think, the gravesite of his father and maybe the great grandfather, because his great grandfather died in World War One.
Yeah, in France.
And so they put all like these like pieces together as like basically a film. It's really cool. Yeah, and the stuff like Chris was saying, the technology now that they can project on the wall, and how big the wall gets, and how it grows during the show. Mm-hmm. You really get a scope of what that album is about. Like it's pretty phenomenal. I would have loved to have seen that show.
Yeah,
it's awesome.
I think what is the best show? You were talking about superheroes coming to life earlier, Jake. For me, the first superheroes, they weren't Superman. It wasn't Spider-Man. It wasn't even like, I don't know, Phantom Stranger. It was
Ragman.
Ghost Rider. No, Son of Satan. No, it was no one liked Damon Hellstrom. It was the Beatles. The Beatles were the first superheroes for me.
Really?
Yeah, always just seeing like, growing up watching Yellow Submarine or A Hard Day's Night or Help, or seeing, I have all those records, like I don't know how many times. I'm probably in every single home format. I've got them on vinyl, I have them on cassette, I have them on CD, I have them digitally. Jake and I recounted all 16, like in 16 episodes, their entire discography with, varying accuracy depending on based on our YouTube comments that we receive. And we went track by track with every single record. But seeing Paul McCartney, there was a moment you were talking about, like the pinch me moment with like Springsteen, or the pinch me moment with like James Brown in your case, Jeremy. For me, it was like, oh no, this is the guy that wrote the soundtrack to my entire life. Like watching him perform Let It Be, or he started his set with A Hard Day's Night, or listening to something off Sgt. Pepper's, like Sgt. Pepper's.
Oh yeah, when I saw him, it took me 4 songs to put it together. Like I remember I was sitting watching him play, and I was like I was like, this is the guy that was in the studio with, like, he wrote all the. I couldn't put it together until like 4 or 5 songs in.
Yeah,
and I could finally like sit and enjoy it, because I was like, I couldn't put it together. And then like when Springsteen came out and was just like waving, like, hey, how's it going? I remember I was like, oh, he's just a guy. Like I was expecting like 20-foot tall Bruce Springsteen to come out,
like Born in the USA era, super jacked Springsteen.
Yeah, not like Darkness on the Edge of Town, Noodle Arm Springsteen. I mean, I love him, but like, you compare the 2 albums. I mean, it's like Bruce Banner, Incredible Hulk. But like, yeah, I remember he came out. I was like, oh, he's just a normal dude, like, and that was crazy too.
That's interesting, talking about these musicians as like larger than life, because I read this really interesting interview with Trent Reznor, talking about, music, his opinion of where music is headed into the future, and how he's never going to release an LP ever again, because the attention span is so short now. He's been partnering with Apple Music, so he's really into the streaming services, and so like everything he's going to produce moving forward will be like 5, 6, 7 songs max. And he was saying that, you know, now when it comes to music, it's not just the music that these musicians perform. There has to be kind of a story, and because of social media and the internet, you know, young fans now are almost more interested in what these musicians do in their personal life than they do about what they do on stage. And, you know, he was saying when he was a kid, he'd pore over liner notes and just imagine, and he didn't think of them as people. Like, they were just mythical creatures that performed amazing music. And like, he says, you know, he believes that is just dead.
I mean, if you're looking for a spiritual successor to Skip to the End, I think you might have kind of found it here, because you've kind of got these like larger than life.
I actually have a follow-up. I have a pseudo follow-up that is not going to actually. It could work within the same year, maybe, but I basically want to explore Joy Division. That's like the second favorite band next to Nirvana is Joy Division.
Are you also big on the? I guess The Cure is kind of not that far off from Joy Division, at least like stuff like Disintegration or Pornography.
Yeah, not so. I mean, I appreciate The Cure, but in some ways, Joy Division is like Nirvana was just like this bright flash of brilliance that didn't last very long. And Ian Curtis's life is just absolutely fascinating, and you know, his dealing with depression and epilepsy and where he lived. And when I listen to some of their songs, I just think they were so far ahead of their time, because it sounds catchier than some of the poppiest songs that are on the radio, to me anyway. And like, they're just amazing. And you know, there's this controversy about him falling in love with a rock journalist while he was married, and you know, all of that. And there was just so much to explore, but I would want to explore this from the fictional daughter of the fictional band based off Joy Division, specifically the Ian Curtis character.
Right.
And in that instance, it wouldn't be a guitar, it would be a microphone.
Yeah. And it always has to, the what's it, both you've got the what was the term again? Spatial collider, right? Like, with the guitar and the microphone, you kind of have these. Are they almost like narrative totems within the story?
Totally. Like, I had an idea of doing a trilogy based off the idea of a guitar, a microphone, and a drum kit. It's still pretty ambitious in my mind, but even the microphone, I didn't know how to tackle that. And when I decided to focus on a singer that didn't really play an instrument, I mean, Curtis played a guitar on a handful of tracks, but really he was just the vocalist. That kind of came into light. And then I learned about his daughter, Natalie, and like, you know, her experiencing his father's music when she was young, and like being asked to be on the set of Control when they were filming it. And, you know, just kind of exploring, you know, your own identity in the sense of who your father was by getting to go back in time and hanging out with him. But yeah, that's the rough idea in my mind anyway.
Cool. Well, Jeremy, before we return you to the wilds of the Green Mountain State, is there anything else you'd like to plug?
Sure. So yeah, Skip to the End comes out June 12th. I have a 2-book series with the same publisher, Inside Comics. The first book is called After Houdini. That'll be out October 2nd. That's basically a historical fiction series. The concept is that Harry Houdini, other than being the world's most famous magician, is also a covert spy for American intelligence. So he goes on a mission and doesn't come back. So his estranged son is roped into this world of intrigue, and his handler is Teddy Roosevelt, and he basically has to go looking for his father in Russia. So that comes out October, and the follow-up to that is Before Houdini, which comes out in May of next year, which is focusing on Eric Weiss before he became Harry Houdini, and him as a youngster, as a teen, gets recruited with a couple of other teens to basically track down Jack the Ripper.
Oh, damn. Okay. That escalated quickly. All right.
Yeah.
Nice. The old Whitechapel murderers themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Well, again, skip to the end. Out in stores everywhere on June 12th. Jeremy, thanks again for coming on the show.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Chris, because Jake reveals it in the book review, I reveal it in the interview. What is your most, I don't maybe want to share this concert experience?
I mean,
Orgy?
No, Orgy was awesome. It's your guys' fault for having guilty pleasures. I just have pleasures. Usually, the closest thing would probably be that I saw. Ooh, you know what? I know. Although still, whatever. Yeah. The answer I will go with is that I saw Britney Spears at King's Dominion when she was still not, like, she was still on her upswing. Oh, like, wow. Like One More Time had come out, but like she wasn't like huge.
Big time Spears.
Exactly. She was still her mall tour phase. Except theme parks.
Yeah. The Robin Sparkles period.
Yeah.
We all have. I'm trying to think if I've seen anybody in their Robin Sparkles period. Coldplay, I guess, before they got, played Super Bowls and shit.
I saw Coheed and Cambria like a month before they got huge at a Warped Tour side stage.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Maybe it was about a year, but whatever. You know what I mean.
I do. Anybody I've seen right before they hit, like, really hit big? No. I think it's all because going to like festivals and stuff, you would always see people that at least got some radio airtime at that point. What's the band's name? They only ended up having like one Orgy
hit. No, I saw them after they got big. I saw them on their decline. I saw them during their tour for their second album.
You kids at home don't even know they have a second album.
Right? They had one single off of that second album. I forget what it was called, and they probably do too. Jimmy's Chicken Shack. Oh! I saw them at an HFS like block party. I can't. That might have been the name of it.
I know they definitely played an HF festival.
And it wasn't that. It was like the chili cook-off, or that's DC 101, isn't it?
DC 101 does chili cook-off.
But it was like a block party. Like they sectioned off a couple blocks in DC. Mm-hmm. They had a couple stages. I think 311 was like the headliner.
Was it at like RFK's parking lot?
It might have been there
because that's where they like to do. That's where they do chili cook-off, for example.
Yeah, and that's where they used to do HF Festival.
Yeah,
or at least they did it
when I went
there. Yeah. But no, I saw Jimmy's Chicken Shack. And then, like, 2 years later, they were on TRL with Do Right. And I was like, hey, I saw them when they were, like, a know-nothing DC area band.
I saw Taking Back Sunday before they signed to a major label.
I think I saw them right when they signed. Yeah, well, yeah, weren't they the headliner, not headliner, opener for the Blink-182 Green Day tour?
Saves the Day was.
Saves the Day.
And Taking Back Sunday, when I saw Taking Back Sunday for the first time, I've seen them a couple times, they were opening for Saves the Day.
There we go.
Which is weird because that means that there was a time where Saves the Day, and I like Saves the Day, but there was a time where Saves the Day was bigger than Taking Back Sunday.
Yeah. Yeah.
I saw the All American Rejects before. They had already like gotten radio play, like they had already put out like Swing Swing, but I saw them right before they put out the album Move Along with Move Along and Dirty Little Secret, and It Ends Tonight.
Would you say that that's when they blew up?
I mean, that album went like almost 3 times platinum, whereas like their previous album just like that had like multiple singles, but only one actually got radio play.
What was their like first single that like had
Swing Swing?
Was that the what it's called? Well, I mean, I know the song, but I'm trying to remember.
It's the one that goes swing swing
swing swing from the tabletops.
What's the one Lumineers song? Oh, Ho Hey.
Yeah,
but you can't believe is named Ho Hey.
I mean, it's like so on the nose.
But
not Hey Ho,
because I saw All American Rejects during their first like national tour. They played the 930 Club. Like so they were big enough to headline 930.
Yeah.
But
that's where I saw them.
It might have been the same show.
Wouldn't be unprecedented
because it was
2004-ish.
Sure.
Okay.
That feels about right.
Yeah.
It was my little sister's first like real concert, like the first that wasn't the Spice Girls or Britney Spears.
First rock show.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, probably. If those two were the only ones that she went to before. But like,
those are legitimate concerts.
Yeah, and like by my criteria, like the first one that mom and dad didn't take us to. You know, mine was Orgy, also at 930 Club, and then my little sister's was All American Rejects. Sorry, I'm very burpy right now.
I also. I saw
in studio. I'm making weird faces.
I do
ducking away from the mic so I don't just belch right into the microphone.
I do appreciate the chocolate rain lean that I usually do. I saw. Who did I see that is really fucking cool? That Cox.
You saw Cox.
Well, I see Cox on like a regular basis.
Woo!
But the it was nice. The people, I'm just stalling as I'm thinking. Jake,
I'm still laughing because earlier you reached for imaginary glasses when you were like, "It wouldn't surprise me, Mr. Nolan."
Yeah.
And you did that imaginary like Clark Kent glasses thing, and I was like, "Does he have glasses?"
Sometimes,
but he didn't. There, it was done so well that I thought maybe for a second you did.
There it is again. Yeah, one of these days I'll like walk around in glasses and see who recognizes me because apparently that's all it takes to not
posture as well.
Well,
depending on who's drawing them.
Yeah, maybe I'm confident John Byrne era Clark Kent.
That's right. Fuck your shit up. Fuck you.
I got broad shoulders now, guys.
Fuck you.
Real quick, just because I was curious. Sam, you were correct. Swing Swing was their first like single. It was released in 2002. I have no idea if that's when the tour was. But yeah, my little sister like immediately fell in love with them, and so we were like, "Oh, for your birthday, here you go."
They show up on Smallville.
They did. That was also in the Wikipedia article.
I saw Childish Gambino before he really busted open. That's the term we use, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I saw him
after.
He was just all busted. He was like, Sam Stone. I saw him. What was it? Royalty.
Yeah.
I saw him during that album's tour. So technically, like his first real album, although he had like 4 albums and mixtape kind of things out before, which all cool.
I saw he wasn't even playing the second largest. He wasn't even playing the third largest stage when I saw him at the festival. I was like, oh shit, it's Childish Gambino. And at that point, like you, the biggest thing I knew him from was Community.
Yeah.
I was like, oh.
Yeah,
cool.
Community and his contributions to Derek Comedy and 30 Rock.
Yeah, I was like, oh, this dude can also rap and sing.
Yeah.
Nice. He's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
I saw Tegan and Sarah
before they. Been fun.
It was joyous.
I'm a big fan of Walking with a Ghost. That's their first song that I knew of theirs.
Back during their like more indie singer-songwriter phase.
Yeah. Although I do love their contribution to the Lego movie.
Oh yeah, everything is awesome. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. With the Lonely Island.
Their album Heartthrob is just that's the album I saw. That's their first like pop album, and they have a song called Drive Me Wild, and it's just like you listen to that and you're like, oh, that's a Sam Stone joint because it's like all the things like Jake has got me figured out in that he sent me a Ghost song like over the weekend called Dance Macabre. He sent it to both of us.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, he was like, this has Sam Stone written all over it, and I was like, well, guitar-driven melody and 4 on the floor rhythm. Yeah, that's my type.
What I really liked is, so I follow the band Ghost. I believe that's the handle on Instagram, and the day before Jake sent that to us, if you watched their Instagram stories, it was the music video in clip form, but like it was each individual person's like little bit, so it was like 15 seconds of the song, so you got the whole song and like you just got to see Chris Jericho going
Oh yeah, all the fans Instagram video. Yeah.
And it was and I was like, oh, Chris Jericho, oh, Aleister Black, like because I'm a fan of wrestling, and then I was like, oh, there's musicians also. Thankfully, they're tagged because I don't know most of these people from Adam, but I know the bands that they're in. It's like, oh, cool, and then then come to find out that's what the music video is, but it's slightly like re-edited. But it was really cool. And yes, that is the most Sam Stone Ghost song, I think.
That was the first thing when the chorus kicks in, I was like, Sam Stone in here?
Yeah, I can play Swedish heavy prog metal. That's what I
pronounce you chew.
Yeah, and they can't pronounce with either.
Yeah,
because granted, a lot of Europeans, like even if you ask an Irish person to pronounce the word 33,
33.
Exactly. Yeah. So whenever they pronounce "with" in Dance Macabre, which shows up multiple times during the chorus, they "wit you."
Yeah.
Yeah.
It becomes one word.
Yeah. But thanks
which
for
is good.
Yeah. No. It's honestly I'm still probably in the honeymoon phase, but it might be my favorite Ghost track.
Yeah. I think it's also the Ghost song that broke one of my friends. Because one of my friends, she's loved Ghost for a long time, and she's having trouble coming to terms with the new Papa. I don't even think he's a Papa.
He's a Cardinal.
Yeah, as in the new era of Ghost. Because she's like, they're not a... what did she say? Like, because I thought it was a little off base myself, but she was like, they're not a doom metal band or anymore or whatever. And I was like, were they ever?
No.
Yeah, I didn't think so either. Like, I'm fine with the way that they changed their music up. Like, you got to do that sometimes.
Yeah. Well,
and it's still the same essence.
The way they were described to me when their first album came out was there was an interview, I think, with Lars Ulrich, where I think he sung their praises. I saw the cover art, which is their first album, which is still fucking one of the best album covers just ever. And then someone said Merciful Fate meets Blue Oyster Cult. And
I dig it.
Blue Oyster Cult, definitely, like the eeriness. And I guess they, a little bit of the higher vocals of Merciful Fate. But they're one of these bands, like, it must be a fucking pain in the ass to be in Ghost sometimes. Because so many people are like, oh, what are they? Metal? They rock? This or that? It's like, it doesn't matter. Like, because I keep saying, like,
they're Ghost.
When it's all said and done, like, people are gonna look back on like the arc of Ghost and be like, "That was fucking genius."
Yeah,
they're just a great band. Like, it's just
I remember when.
Yeah, their music is fucking great, man. Like, and they're like totally like fearless with their stuff because like they allow themselves to have a sense of humor. They, the art of it, the characters of it, like it's such a cool fucking thing.
Theatricality
and the fact that like it's
theatricality and deception are powerful allies.
It's true.
You're finally learning how to use it.
Is that they're popular? You know what I mean? Like this type of thing, the imagery and everything associated with it. Like it's really cool. I'm really looking forward to this new album of theirs because
I already got my copy pre-ordered.
That's right. The two singles that that they've released so far are vastly different, and Dance Macabre is like one of the most interesting ones because it's. There's a lot of this stuff has a little bit of bite to it, and this one is very much like I remember reading somewhere they were talking about like kind of like the 70s 80s like disco like kind of vibe to it with the chorus and stuff. It's just fucking great. And that's the thing too is like Ghost is like we're not gonna pigeonhole ourselves into one thing, and a lot of people that I see like online and stuff when they talk about Ghost they have to be like what are they, and it's like it doesn't matter. Yeah. They're Ghost, and it's just
music.
It's just good music.
And it
allows them to do whatever the hell they want to do.
That's a similar argument that I have with a lot of like old school wrestling fans who, that's right. I tied it into wrestling. Whatever. Ghost had a song that was for a wrestling show. Anyway, like a lot of people will be don't like subtle nuances in the characters of wrestling. They're like, well, who's the face? Who's the heel? Who's the good guy? Who's the bad guy in this fight? You got to have one or the other. It's like, two good guys can fight. Two bad guys can fight. You don't have like, sure, one of them might be more good and more evil or whatever, but like, it's like you don't have to. It doesn't have to be a baby, fresh shaven baby face versus Rasputin, the heel. I don't know why. Well, no, I do know why Rasputin because I just listened to like a 4-part podcast series about Rasputin, but it was really fun. And they finished it with Boney M's Rasputin song.
I've only seen one karaoke bar that's had that.
You've seen a karaoke bar that has it?
Yeah, from a distance. No, I
You drove past and it was on the billboard.
Yeah, it's like, oh shit. Well, I don't have time for this. No, it was a club in Koreatown in Los Angeles.
Oh.
I sang the shit out of that.
You better.
Yeah. That was the last time I was in Los Angeles too.
Yeah.
But it's been a couple of years.
But I agree. You don't need to have clearly defined labels for music, for wrestling, for anything.
I think
it's fun to have nuance.
Frees you up to do whatever you want.
Yeah, just have fun. As long as you're not hurting somebody else, just do what you want. That's what Bob Saget taught me on Full House.
Speaking of Full House, we all saw Deadpool 2 last week.
Yep, it was a family film.
By his own admission.
Yeah.
What did you boys think of it?
Perfectly fine. It was funny. It's fine. A lot of people are, like to compare it to the first one. To me, it's not even close to the first one.
First one's still my favorite.
Yeah,
I enjoyed both.
But I mean, it's funny.
Yeah.
But
you're not the biggest fan of Julian Dennison.
I mean,
as Russell.
Yeah,
I liked Russell. I like Russell.
That wasn't he in some New Zealand movie years ago?
Hunt for the Wilder People with Sam Neill, directed by friend of the show Taika Waititi.
Ah, personal friend of the show.
That's right. No, I mean, I didn't hate the movie at all, but to me,
I like the new bits.
Yeah, I mean, Cable and Domino,
yeah.
But outside of that, to me, it didn't do nothing was superior in any way.
Not
to
even
the
the
first
action.
One. No, because like I said, what's the big memorable thing that blows you? To me, nothing. There was nothing that came even close.
My favorite
to the bridge stuff in the first one.
Well, that's mainly because most of the first one.
Okay, I'll shrink it down even more. The counting the bullets thing.
Oh,
nothing is even close to that in Deadpool 2.
That's a good kind of
and that's over a lot of that's still one of the coolest things.
I mean, it's a very imaginative action sequence where he's like, oh shit, I still like it when he fakes out the one dude and shoots him between his legs in that scene.
Yeah.
I think my favorite action set piece is the prison break where we first see Cable in action. And I do like that they make, as I'm sure you do, not only RoboCop references, but there's straight up shots out of the first Terminator.
Oh yeah,
with him in the room and the eye and everything.
And there was the Goonies joke.
There was, yeah, which Chris had to point out for me. I was like, did they not make? And he was like, no, they totally did. I was like, oh yeah. Chris, where do you fall on Deadpool 2?
I thoroughly enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun watching it. It made me laugh.
Yeah,
and had some fun action.
Yeah, when I say I like when I say I like the first one more, it doesn't mean I don't like the second one. It just means I don't like it as much. It's it's a movie that if you love the first one, you're gonna like two.
It was very much in the wheelhouse of the first one. You definitely feel that it was made by the same creative juices.
I was I remember Jake, you and I were talking about it getting comics earlier today, and you're like, didn't you? I really like the scene with the baby legs, and I was like, see, I always got weirded out by the baby hand in the first one, so now where they literally doubled down in the second one, I'm just like, oh.
I mean, I guess
guys,
the movie's still funny as shit. And any more Colossus stuff, I love that. Yeah, this seems out the F-bomb, but I don't know. I just fine. I don't know. I liked it. I wasn't. I didn't. It wasn't anything else. It was Russell. I wish that wasn't the plot of the movie. You know what I mean? I don't know. I don't know what I wished it was, but
less New Zealand.
No,
yeah, fuck New Zealand.
Nothing.
You heard it here first, kids. Jake hates New Zealand.
All right, it's true. No, nothing against that actor.
Even
and that kid,
Kiwis, fucking hates kiwis, both the bird and the fruit.
Yeah, well, that is true. No, I mean nothing against the the
How
kid.
dare a fruit have hair?
That's weird.
Kiwis and coconuts, they're all out.
Yeah.
Still, I will go unabashedly on record and say durians can probably fuck themselves.
Oh, the
spiky.
That smelly fruit.
Yeah.
I'm assuming. Yeah, I've only heard horrible things. Yeah, but like I said, nothing against that.
Sam Stone taking a stand against durians.
This is my line in the sand.
Hey, I don't want to see any durians cross this fucking line. And
if we ever do live shows, that's going to be in the writer. Like, no durians.
Yeah. I'm going to get pelted with durians, and they're spiky and smelly, which is like the worst fruit to pick to get pelted with.
For Sam.
Aim for this big goofy fucking face right here.
Again, I don't have anything against that kid. I don't know. You know,
yeah. Wasted Juggernaut.
No, I was glad to see him. I mean, I think everyone kind of knew that was going to happen.
I did not.
I mean, it was surrounding everything.
I do.
I didn't know for sure, but like it was in the air.
That's also one of my favorite jokes, where where Reynolds basically looks right at the camera and he's just like, he said with heavy foreshadowing.
Yeah. That's when I knew. I was like, it's going to be the Juggernaut. I had a good idea it was going to be the Juggernaut, but. There's that one of my favorite.
That's what I leaned in to Sam. I was like, "Ooh, I wonder if it's gonna be the Blob." And Sam's like, "It's the Juggernaut."
Well,
and then 5 minutes later,
yeah,
the Juggernaut shows up, and I'm like, "Well,"
I did the massive helmet hands, which I don't know if that.
What's the line where he's like, we're gonna go fuck shit up, and he's like, "Fuck shit up is legally my middle name." Like the
you know who voices Juggernaut?
No, actually, who?
Ryan Reynolds.
Oh, really?
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fucking cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's like Superman 4: The Quest for Peace.
Yeah,
Gene Hackman.
Oh yeah.
No, that's cool. I didn't know that. That's cool, man. Yeah, I mean, the post-credit scene was fun, and
which spoil. I mean, you know the show.
Yeah,
I presume.
And it's been out for over a week.
Yeah. The Ryan Reynolds and the writers have all gone on record since saying like, yeah, we're aware the mid-credit scene renders most of the film pointless. But it's Deadpool, so it's okay.
I was curious where that stuff was going to land between like, oh, we're just goofing around, and this is a movie that is nonsensical, and and then the other end of the spectrum being this is all canon, because very easily could be like, you're watching him go do one thing, and then like he bounces back too far and fucks everything up, and we just didn't see that. Yeah. He could have stepped on a plant in prehistoric times, and we're all dead.
Yeah. Credits.
But yeah, like Sam was saying though, the additions were great. Zazie Beetz as Domino, and Josh Brolin is
wonderful.
Dude, how fucking
Domino.
ripped.
He put on some muscle, man.
It's from carrying around the gauntlet.
Yeah.
Right. No, he was badass. And like Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool, like is a fucking joy to watch. Like,
oh yeah,
some shit.
You're in.
Yeah, you're in. But like, going back to there's a moment in the first one, and because I've revisited the first one before watching the second one, just in preparation, and I just realized like how great that fucking movie is, But there's a moment where he's looking for, was it Francis?
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, and he like hip checks the door to shut it, and it's like this, like I don't know. When I first saw that movie, I don't know why that moment right there, I was like, dude, this guy is having so much fun and knows exactly what he's doing. Like that little moment, he's like, Francis, and he like hip checks the door shut. And then just in the middle of this carnage and fucking getting shot in his asshole and like just all of that, man. Like it was, I think this moves super well, like along with, even though Tim Miller, is unfortunately not associated with this one, that thread is still there. I just,
all the same writers.
Yeah, but I mean, like, I can see a difference in like, I don't know, because Tim Miller's like a big thing with like digital and like the video game stuff. Like, he's big into all that. I could see the action much clearer in the first one than I could the second one. For me, the second one seemed, there was moments when I couldn't tell what was going on. One of the most like wonderful moments of action in the first one, which is so great, is the moment where you see everything happening in slow-mo, where he's like, this is this, and this person gets about to get their head cut off, and then we see everything happen in full motion, like everything catches up, and you see the guy splat against the wall, the guy's head gets cut off, this goes flying, and like that's still one of the most like just clean moments in an action thing I've seen recently. And again, maybe it is watching the movie, right before seeing the second one and going, because again, there is definitely more action in this one because the budget's bigger. You're going to have more.
You've got a John Wick director.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm not. I love
Atomic Blonde.
I would because I was trying to think of like my favorite like. I really like in the beginning when he's chainsawing people. And he's like going after the dude in the safe house.
Yeah, no bullshit. My favorite action. I've mentioned the Prison Break, and that's great because it's like you see Cable in action, you see Deadpool in action. Like especially when he like breaks his back in the like.
Oh, that's fucking hilarious.
Yeah,
even I was like,
I was sitting next to you. I can verify he did in fact go hoo-ah. But I love
that was right about when I spilled my drink on Ken.
I guess I was on the safe side. I'm cool.
Yeah,
but the
friend of the show, Ken.
Yeah,
there
it is. My favorite action is honestly the montage in the beginning where he takes on the Yakuza. He takes on that's.
I was hoping
where he says it's a family film.
Yeah, I was hoping the coffin scene where he pops up was going to be a much bigger set piece. Because that was so fucking funny the way he just pops up. He's like, "Hey!" With like,
you don't want to go in there. Before he essentially puts bunches of people in coffins.
I loved the big
convoy.
Yeah, the convoy scene. Partially because I remember in the trailer when they revealed what's his name, the normal guy, the not superhero, Peter. When they had like that little thing, I was like, oh man, I bet you he dies like 2 seconds after that clip where they're skydiving, and he does, and I was like, yay, I called that.
What you don't know is everybody
dies. Which again, I was like, I like how silly this movie's being. But then like you get like Domino and Deadpool and Cable and the whole convoy thing. Like I loved that, and I mean I love the Fast and the Furious movies, so like I love a good car sequence like that.
The endless runway.
Yes.
I liked how everything played out with Domino.
Oh, like that was beautiful.
You could see it, kind of working its way. And
yeah,
one of my favorite jokes.
Get decapitated by like a fucking bookcase.
Oh yeah. It's like we need a bus to get them all out. One of my favorite moments though is when she figures out the combination to the collar. She's like, "Try 7."
Yeah, it'd be more than one. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I know friend of the show, Jinx. I know she had a problem with the simplification of Domino's powers because it's not exactly quote unquote luck, but it's like manipulating probability.
Yeah.
Isn't that essentially what Squirrel Girl's powers are as well?
It's to a degree, but mostly in terms of like not in everyday things, but mostly in terms of like combat, which is why she's able to take down Galactus, Thanos, Doctor Doom. Longshot, the X-Men Longshot has that ability. Black Cat can make things unlucky, as long as it doesn't, not her personally, but like that's why her relationship with like Spider-Man is so problematic because they like to have fun together, but he's not known for his luck anyway.
Yeah,
and she makes it worse. But yeah, what's her name? Scarlet Witch. Her spells sometimes the chaos magic has to do with probabilities as well. But yeah, there's like. Just in movie terms, they're just like fuck it.
Yeah, like yeah. When she went on, she had made a post about that, and I was like, yeah, but it's so much simpler in this movie to just say I'm luck, and then like the way that the Final Destination style, like Rube Goldberg machine,
death.
just shits that were going on. I was like, this is perfect for this movie, though.
Yeah. And I mean, even like the characters call it into question when she first comes in.
Yeah,
Reynolds just like it's because I'm just going to call Deadpool Ryan Reynolds from now on.
Do it. The same one and the same.
I mean, he did go on a Korean talk show or a singing contest, dressed up as a unicorn and sang "Tomorrow" from the Annie soundtrack.
Nice.
But the I'm just thinking about the opening montage where he's like disguised as a stripper and stuff now.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. But yeah, he's just like, that's not a power. And she's like, but it is. And he's like, let's agree to disagree and say, no, it isn't.
Yeah. All right, I think it was, let's meet in the middle and say it isn't.
Yeah, it's out of control how like good he is.
I mean, well, he's been playing that character since Blade 3, right?
Trinity.
Yeah.
Directed by friend of the show. He's such a good friend, I don't actually. David Goyer. They're all friends of the show,
Yeah.
guys. We have enemies of the show too, but we don't talk about them.
Yeah. Share.
If I could turn back time, that's not how that song goes at all.
All right, Chris.
It is now.
That was a criticism right there.
Yeah, right.
So
No, he got the lyrics right.
Yeah. So the key to a good Sam Stone song is guitar and 4 on the floor rhythm. The key
Less
to
is more.
yeah,
too.
the key, yeah, that tends to be melodic, less is stripped down, guitar-driven melody, 4 on the floor. The key to a Chris song is maybe don't get the lyrics right, and maybe don't sing it in the melody that it's actually written in.
Yeah.
But in a melody of another song.
Oh, it's not out of tune. It's just not. Maybe,
It's just not the right tune.
You're taking creative liberty.
Yeah. It's like when Twisted Sister did the Christmas album where they just took their own songs but took Christmas lyrics to them. Like, "Oh Come All Ye Faithful" being "We're Not Gonna Take It."
Please tell me the entire Christmas album is just "We're Not Gonna Take It."
Unfortunately, no.
What did they do for "I Want to Rock"?
I don't recall. Right now,
Probably "Joy to the World" or something.
as of
Joy to the world.
as of this very moment, it's probably in that CD stack right there behind you, Jake. But at this very moment, the only ones I can remember are "O Come All Ye Faithful" and the 12 Nights of Christmas, which
You have Blood Mountain by Mastodon.
yes, but the 12 Nights of Christmas, or is that what? It's
On the 12 days of Christmas.
yeah. They did. They actually changed the lyrics to that, and it's "My heavy metal Christmas, my true love gave to me a tattoo of Ozzy," and etc. I don't remember all of them.
Etc. Etc.
In Excelsis.
In Excelsis Day. That's actually one of my favorites.
It's a good song.
Yeah. Jake, what's your favorite Christmas carol? Chris, what's your favorite
I don't
Christmas
know.
carol while he ponders? That's "Hark the Herald Angels Sing," if you're wondering.
Oh
what
yeah,
the-
me too.
Oh.
Oh. The one that Trans-Siberian Orchestra does.
Carol of the Bells?
Yeah. Ding, Fraser, dung, ding, Fraser, dung. Ding.
Yeah, I'm looking up what.
Would you like an apple pie with that? Would you like an apple pie with that?
Now, Jake, you've been, there was a period, I mean, you could argue this period is still going on, where you're just like...
A blue period?
Sure. If his blue period is nothing but RoboCop,
Mm.
would you say...
Blue for police.
Yeah. Right now, is this your jungle period? Jungle for Predator?
I've got a jungle.
Shit.
The only prescription is Predator.
Your jungle period. I mean, I would say, yeah. In terms of the Predator films and so, yeah, I've been into the. I guess it's pronounced Yautja.
Well,
That's their.
I just call them Predators.
Whoa.
Also,
you probably also call them xenomorphs, don't you?
not the Predators.
No, well,
Yeah, I
you
guess.
probably call the aliens from Alien xenomorphs, don't you?
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes, yeah.
But
You all-
They're
and-
actually xenomorphs monsters.
Okay. You also saw Covenant for the first time.
yeah, that movie sucked. But I like the body horror stuff. But that movie was stupid. But I love Ridley Scott. But yeah, no, I
You own a good year.
Oh yeah. If Ridley Scott ever heard this, he was like, "Fuck him for hating Alien Covenant." I'd be like, "But I own a good year." He'd be like, "Let's hang out."
You got me there.
Friend of the show.
Yeah, friend of the shows.
Ridley
Is he Sir
Scott.
Ridley Scott? He should be. He is now. If he's not, Sir Ridley Scott.
You do have the power to
I
knight
do.
someone.
Yeah.
Just like we have the power of friendship.
Yeah, yeah,
And the power to move. you.
yeah, and the jungle phase.
Jungle period.
Yeah, they've never been referred to the I think it would Yautja or whatever in the movies, obviously, but I think in the Dark Horse stuff in the comics and whatnot, they've given them the name Yautja.
Yautja.
Yautja. It's cool. I am fascinated by their like culture, and it's like been hinted at in the movies. Even though Alien vs. Predator Requiem is seen as like the worst of all of anything Predator movie related, I love the Wolf Predator in that, and I wish it just followed him because I loved him like getting rid of all the traces of the aliens, the xenomorphs, the buttholes, whatever.
My favorite.
The dead humans, and then like taking out all the xenomorphs, and then fighting the Predalien at the end, and just being a badass. I am looking forward to the new one, just the Predator, the one coming out later this year. I guess, I'm trying to remember what really set off. I've always liked the Predator stuff. But I've been playing that Ghost Recon game my brother introduced me to, the Wildlands, or just Wildlands, and you can fight the Predator in it, which is really cool. And I was like, oh man, that's like one of the coolest fucking designs. Like I love the look of the Predator. Mm-hmm. So I started reading some of the Dark Horse stuff too. Yeah, I like the Predator. What can I say? He's a badass. Like, yeah. Well, I love in Predator 2, and he's like, you want some candy? Like the little kid. And then there's that moment where like
we should be like shitty predators for Halloween.
Oh yeah,
like just no effort in the costume, just like ha ha ha.
Yeah,
ha,
just bendy straws for the
tentacle.
Well, there's
face.
that moment where like Danny Glover's like he's like the Predator's holding onto his arm, it's all cut up.
Yeah,
and the Predator's gonna like self-destruct, and I forgot what Danny Glover says to set it up. But the Predator, like his mask is off, and he goes, "Shit happens." It's the end of Predator 2 is cool. I like that when the Predator's just like he fucks up everybody. And,
with the xenomorph skull.
Yeah. I was telling that is the sci-fi equivalent of Freddy's, Freddy's hand coming on all over Jason's face. In the end of that shitty one.
That's
Jason
how
goes to hell.
They're all shitty ones.
Yeah.
Hasn't Chris reached that consensus?
That's my secret, Cap. They're all shitty.
Yeah. we need to bring back specialty episodes. Because that reminds me, Chris has got Dreamchild next. I've got GoldenEye and Super Mario 64 next. I don't know how long you've been sitting on RoboCop.
We're waiting on We're gonna wait the full however many years 19. It was between 3 and So Mike and I are gonna wait a long time, guys.
You're gonna resurrect the Kiss My podcast first.
Yeah, man. Well,
we do have.
Hey, you know what? Hey, we're gonna do
legitimately one of the friends of the show. Like I'm not just like bullshitting when I say this.
Not a bullshit friend of the show like usual.
Yeah, like one of our actual friends of the show was the producer on Gene Simmons' Family Jewels.
Which is pretty cool.
And he talked about, I was talking to him, he's like, if you ever need me to do a Kiss episode.
Maybe.
We can bring him back for that.
Yeah.
But I want to do real quick a micro episode of Guys Like Us Don't Die in Toilets. So wait 1 second.
Uh-huh.
This is another episode of Guys Like Us Don't Die in Toilets. Lethal Weapon retrospective. Sean William Scott is now Riggs.
Oh!
He's a new character.
Oh, he's not Riggs? Then what the fuck did they put?
He's probably going to be Riggs' brother.
So Riggs is just written off the show now?
I guess.
What?
Well, he got fired.
Yeah, I know, but why didn't they just
Playing
recast?
Crawford.
I know that, but why didn't they just recast him?
What do you think this is? The first couple seasons of Roseanne?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
No, or MASH.
Oh, well then, fuck that micro episode. I just saw that it was like Sean William Scott cast in Lethal Weapon 3. I just assumed that they were just going to let him grow the mustache.
Based on my...
What is the point of Lethal Weapon then if it's just Murtaugh? That's Predator 2. Oh, wait. Now it's Predator 2 series. Yeah, okay.
I mean
I get it.
Predator 2 is...
Riggs' Day Off, baby.
Yeah.
That's weird. Wouldn't you think, though, that they would just recast
From what I've
him?
heard, based on working the news desk at CBR, it's a new character.
That's weird, man.
Yeah. Well, maybe they shouldn't have hired such a shitty guy to be the Murtaugh. Or the Riggs.
Maybe they're both shitty.
Yeah.
We don't know. I've never met Damon Wayans. I'm sure he's fine. I'm sure he's a lovely person.
Yeah. He's a funny guy.
He's a funny guy. Apparently, he's got like an entire like file of like shit that Clayne Crawford pulled both seasons as well. Yeah, and I see a lot of interesting shit on that news desk, guys. Like the fact that now in the new Halloween movie, no Halloween sequels before it exists. So just the 1978 original. Which means Laurie Strode is probably not going to be siblings with Michael Myers.
That's really the only big thing that happens in Halloween 2.
Yeah.
That reveal. Yeah. I saw Mom and Dad, the movie with Nick Cage. You know, my mom and dad.
I was like, I hope don't you see them every day?
Not every day. I haven't seen them in a good couple days.
That's right. You were out on like all around the East Coast.
Yeah. Yeah. Being a man about town. Baskin Ridge, New Jersey.
Home of not Baskin Robbins.
No. I don't even think it's the home of anything. Although, shout out to Rolf's, the German restaurant that I met up with friend of the show, Nicole, for dinner one night because she lives not too far away. Anyway, but no, I saw Mom and Dad, the new-ish Nicolas Cage movie, or Nick Cage as he goes by now, where he and Selma Blair star as a husband and wife parents of these two kids, and for whatever reason, like just all the parents in the world seem to just turn on their kids and start like trying to fucking kill the shit out of them.
Damn.
Yeah, it was intense, and the start of it seemed like it wasn't sure whether or not it wanted it to be like some weird, just natural thing happening, because like for what felt like the first like half hour, they were really digging into this concept of like planned obsolescence, and this thing that happens in certain animal cultures where the parent animals actually do like just decide to eat their young and stuff like that. And then like 20 minutes into it, they're like, oh, this weird signal's coming through the TV causing all these parents to just go nuts. It's like, so is it like some weird natural thing where the parents just decide to kill their kids, or is it some sort of like crazy, cyber attack? I guess a cyber attack, not really a cyber attack, but some weird MK Ultra shit or whatever. I don't know.
I love that Muse song.
Sure. I don't know it, so I'll take your word for it that you love it.
It goes MK Ultra.
Oh, I know that.
MK Ultra. MK Ultra. I'm still fucking shocked that Sean William Scott's not playing Riggs. I just assumed when they said, "Oh God,
he's playing a Riggs."
Is that his first initial is A? But I found it quite enjoyable. Beyond that weird little hiccup during the beginning, and as Jake is a fan of saying, be bold. This movie goes bold. And Nick Cage swings for the fences, and God bless him.
You sent me that one clip.
Yeah,
I was like, "Oh my God!"
that was probably the height of it, but not nearly the peak. I don't know if what I'm trying to say is coming across, but like that was probably like the most intense bit that he does, but it's not nearly like that far out of the realm of the rest of the movie. You know what I'm saying? Like it is all intense. Like it's Nick Cage at almost Ghost Rider like intensity, but like a good script behind it. Which is funny that I say that, because I just remembered that I looked up what the guy that wrote and directed Mom and Dad has in his repertoire. Ghost Rider: Spirit of Vengeance, your favorite one. Oh shit. He had a couple other like good noteworthy things as well, but now all I can remember is Spirit of Vengeance. He like also directed like a good TV show that I really liked. Vamp, so I can look this up.
Vamping. Jake, who's your favorite vampire?
Lestat.
Interesting. Because of Tom Cruise?
Mainly, yeah.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Oh, he did the Crank movies.
Oh, fuck yeah.
And Gamer with Gerard Butler.
I never saw that.
It's pretty good.
Is it?
Pretty good.
It was from that Butler period where he was like gamer, law-abiding citizen. Basically, where like the title of the movie is what Gerard Butler was.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Oh, that's right. And he was also
300.
He did Jonah Hex, and he was creator of the TV show of Happy.
Oh yeah. with Christopher Maloney and Patton Oswalt as as Happy.
Yes. Yeah, he's credited as creating the TV show.
Yes. The actual book is by our patron saint, Grant Morrison.
More than just a friend of the show.
Yeah, we can't be. We're not on the same level as Grant Morrison.
True.
We'll never.
We put lids on our Slurpees.
Yeah,
that's a deep cut that I don't think ever made it to the show.
No, it made it to the show.
Oh, did it?
Episode 3.
Oh, when it was still bad.
Well,
it's all bad.
Did it ever get good? That's the other side of that coin. The answer is no.
That's my secret cap.
We're always been bad. But thanks for the listens, guys. Yeah. And thanks to Jeremy Holt for coming on, talking music with us at length. He's got a banging new book in Skip to the End, out everywhere on June 12th. You guys want to hit anything before I do my little sign off?
Oh boy.
Jerry Lewis, he's dead.
No, yeah, rest in peace. Go see Deadpool 2?
Yeah. As of recording this,
it was fun.
Solo comes out this weekend.
Truth.
So we'll be hitting that up this weekend, and we'll talk about it next week.
I've been doing blog posts for I've been revisiting all the Star Wars movies, kind of like what I did with the MCU stuff a month or so ago, and those have been interesting. Yes, I revisited Clone Wars. But the
movie that almost killed Jake,
almost killed me.
Me too.
We all died a little inside together when we did that one.
A lot of
inside. The most popular blog post that I've written from that series is
Thor Ragnarok.
I was surprised by that. Honest to God, I thought Black Panther would win, but it's Phantom Menace. Everybody, I guess, wanted to see me shit on Phantom Menace. So they did. But anyway, thanks again to Jeremy. Again, Skip to the End out on June 12th. This has been another installment of Catching Up. I'm Sam.
I'm Chris.
I'm Jake. Thank you very much.
Good night, Eric Bana.
Fart.
This has been another Geek Out production. If you enjoyed what you heard, hey, we've got a special episode every Friday. Of course, there's the usual Catching Up show every Wednesday. And you get book club episodes just about every Tuesday these days. Thanks for listening.